Of course, we are going to begin in New York City, where Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted on federal criminal charges. The indictment is sealed, so we don't know the details of the charges yet. But when they are made public, he will become the first New York mayor to be criminally charged while in office. Nikki Battiste is at the U.S. District Courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Nikki, good morning.
Anne-Marie, good morning. Well, so far we've seen no sighting of Mayor Adams here at the courthouse, but his lawyer did tell me about a dozen federal agents arrived at Gracie Mansion where the mayor lives. He was home and took his cell phone this morning. Just 2 days ago, Mayor Adams told CBS News he still expects to be the mayor a year from now, but that could all be in jeopardy.
These charges will be entirely false, based on lies.
Moments after New York City Mayor Eric Adams was indicted on criminal charges by a federal grand jury, the 64-year-old delivered a defiant response.
I will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and my spirit. If I'm charged, I know I am innocent.
The indictment is still sealed, so the exact charges are unknown. But the Democratic mayor has faced public scrutiny since agents seized his phone and searched the home of his chief fundraiser last November. According to sources, it was part of a probe focusing on whether Adams conspired with Turkey and possibly 5 other foreign governments to funnel illegal donations into his 2021 mayoral campaign in exchange for influence.
I know that no one can state that we participated in any type of donor scheme or any type of improper behavior. We followed the law.
This is just one of at least 4 federal investigations into Adams or his inner circle. At least 3 high-ranking city employees have already resigned in recent weeks. Ahead of the indictment came a wave of calls for Adams to resign, including from U.S. Congresswoman and fellow Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
This is a difficult time for the city. Everyone will be coming to their own conclusions, but frankly, this is what I think is best.
But Adams says he will request an immediate trial to fight his legal battle while remaining in office.
Make no mistake, you elected me to lead this city, and lead it I will.
There is no legal requirement for Adams to leave office, and he still has 1 more year until the next mayoral election. New York Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul is the only person who has the power to remove Adams from office, and so far she's indicated no intent to do so. Anne-Marie?
All right, so the indictment remains sealed, Nikki, so we don't know the details, but we got an idea of what it might have to do with. Do we have an idea of how serious this could be for the mayor?
Anne-Marie, I think you touched on it perfectly. These charges, he's the first New York sitting mayor ever to be federally charged. And that pretty much puts into perspective how serious this might be. But you heard it, Mayor Adams, he's going to fight these charges. And it's really important to point out, he is charged. He has a right to due process. He is not convicted. So I think this will be quite a long road until we see how this concludes. Anne-Marie?
So you mentioned how New York's governor actually has the power to remove Adams from office. If that were to happen, though, what would that look like? And then who would replace him? Because I think even his, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't even his deputy mayors are sort of been swept up in this as well?
Yeah, so the process, and this has never happened before, should it happen, if Mayor Adams were to be replaced, he would be replaced by the New York City public advocate, who currently is a man named Juman Williams. He's essentially the president of the city council. If that happens, he would be the acting mayor. He would have 3 days to set a date for a special election that would have to be held within 80 days. It's never happened before. It'll be the first time, if it happens, that a public advocate would act as mayor. And his role, the public advocate role, was just created in 1993. Lots to see, lots of questions, Anne-Marie.
Oh, my gosh, so much. Thank you so much, Nikki. So for more analysis, I want to bring in Joe Anuta. He is a reporter covering City Hall for Politico, New York. All right, so you probably have been, scoping out the hallways of City Hall, hearing the scuttlebutt now, I'm sure, for weeks. Help us understand this. Once the indictment is unsealed, what happens next? What would the process look like for the mayor?
Well, I think the thing we're all waiting for now is not only for the indictment to be unsealed, but then there'll be some sort of surrender. He has to be taken into custody to be formally charged. And I think that's the next big step. What will that look like? And I think how the feds orchestrate that will say a lot about how aggressive they're being in this case, how seriously they think the charges are. That could be anything from a quiet surrender to, I mean, it would be outrageous if they arrested the mayor, but, that's certainly a possibility.
So there were 3 high-ranking employees, or actually, let's talk a little bit more about what sort of defense the mayor might be arguing. He made a statement last night, and I don't know if that gives us any indication as to where he might be going in terms of a defense.
I see it as almost like a two-pronged defense. I think you saw in his statement something that his allies have been alluding to. I think, as you mentioned earlier, word about this has been building for a long time, and we've seen some almost previews of some of the arguments he's going to use from his close political allies. Some of that is going to be sort of an assertion that he is being punished because he stood up to the Biden administration regarding the migrant crisis. We've had a huge influx of migrants in New York. The city is spending billions of dollars on this. And he's been very vocal in criticizing the Biden administration about not getting federal funds.
So
I think that's more of...
Sorry, continue. I want to hear what you had to say.
I was going to say, I think that's more of a public messaging argument, whereas the legal argument, I think, is going to be much different and much more nuanced. We saw one of the things we know that federal investigators are looking at is in 2021, the Turkish government was trying to open up its embassy in New York ahead of a visit by President Erdogan. And the mayor was, at that time, the mayor-elect. He had just won the general election. He called the FDNY commissioner to check on the status of some safety systems in the building because they wanted to get this thing open before the president came. I think the mayor will argue, if that becomes part of the case, and has argued, that he did not order anyone to do anything illegal. And in fact, that's kind of his job sometimes, is to call agencies and just inquire about major developments and get the status. And I think he'll say, look, there's nothing illegal about that. It's actually what I'm supposed to be doing as far as constituent services as an elected official.
So I think, what's also sort of interesting about this is that there have been at least 3 high-ranking city employees who have resigned in the past few weeks. A number of the people within his administration have been under investigation. I mean, one of them to resign is the city's schools, chancellor of schools, or city schools chancellor, I guess, which to me would be kind of a number of steps removed from whatever campaign issues may be going on. Has the mayor addressed any of these resignations?
He has, but not in the way that I think we all are looking for. I think he has painted them as sort of run-of-the-mill burnout when, they're coming after a very serious series of raids. I mean, it's been almost a steady drip of action from the FBI we've seen over the past couple of weeks. As you mentioned, they've seized the phones and raided the homes of the school's chancellor, the now former police commissioner, several of his deputies, several other deputy mayors, including the school's chancellor's partner. This all seems to be part of a very wide-ranging look at the administration and their activities. I think we're looking at least 4 different probes here that are really quite separate, it seems, from what they're looking at regarding the mayor. And I'll just say, going back to something you mentioned earlier, how serious is this? If what the federal investigators are after is some sort of evidence that there was any sort of foreign influence in local government, that is something they take extremely seriously. We've seen it with Bob Menendez in New Jersey, and they do not go lightly when they think that this is happening. So I think the stakes are extremely high for the mayor.
Interesting. Joe, Anuta, thank you so much.
Thank you.